Donald Trump put American troops in Iran as a means of trying to capture uranium, grab the oil, open the Strait of Hormuz. This is Michael Fedlin, and this is a big, big deal because if Trump decides to put American troops on the ground in Iran, it will be his Titantic moment because his ship is going to sink. I ran the numbers through AI. I know everybody loves to hate AI, right? Well, you know what? It does a lot of research that most people do not do. So I had to run the numbers. What would happen if Trump put ground troops in Iran? And obviously, it wouldn't take much of a genius to figure out nothing good is going to happen. First of all, the terrain is way different than Iraq, where it was pretty much smooth desert, roll the tanks, boom, boom, boom. Iran is mountainous, and there's no nice little flat thing you can roll out. So if Trump decided to say take Karg Island or maybe Bandar Abbas, one port, it would still leave hundreds of American soldiers killed. And for what? Really? Because Iran could then pummel that position with artillery, doesn't even need fancy missiles for that, and just obliterate them. Or the drones come in, boom, 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 done. Have we learned nothing from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, where all the blood and treasure we spent, trillions of dollars over decades, resulted in zero regime change? Same Taliban are still running Afghanistan. Vietnam, hey, the communists took over and they're actually building a pretty stable country. We were supporting the South Vietnamese, who was a corrupt dictator, not worth saving. So we spent a lot of 50,000 body bags from Vietnam for what? For a corrupt guy in the South? That made no sense. So we're hearing the same war drum beat now that we heard before the Iraq invasion. Oh, they got WMDs. Even our own intelligence agencies have said Iran wasn't even close to developing a nuclear weapon. In fact, Khomeini, the one he killed, was the top guy who said it would be a sin to develop a nuclear weapon. So, how is the logic there? You kill the one guy against the Duke, so now, and then you kill the second and third tier. You were kind of pretty sloppy about that, right? And so now you're going to have the more radical ones come in and said, hell, we need a nuke now. We look at America. They don't mess with North Korea because they got a nuke. So once we get a nuke, then we won't be hassled anymore. That's the logic that they can see. And frankly, it makes a lot of sense because now we are spending, again, more billions. Oh, and on top of that, we learned that from our Ukraine buddy, Zelensky, that Vladimir Putin, very friendly with Iran, is actually giving Iran intelligence on where our American assets are located in the bases around there in Saudi Arabia, giving them the precise coordinates that they use to send in the drones and missiles and blow out our airborne radar system. These things cost billions. It takes years to build and hurting more of our troops. So, what does Trump do? He drops all the sanctions on Russian oil. What a gift to Vladimir Putin so he could spend more missiles flying into Ukraine. And on top of that, he does away with the sanctions on Iran oil. I mean, this is definitely insanity, folks. I don't know how else you can even justify this. Can you imagine if Obama did such a thing, or Biden, or any president? Really, this is flirting with a dictator that is going against American interests, and yet Trump keeps deferring to Putin, who keeps trying to take out Ukraine, and Trump doesn't even listen to Zelensky saying we can show you how to take down drones on the cheap instead of you guys having to fire the $1 million missiles against a $20,000 drone. Trump, oh, didn't pay any attention. None of our bases had any drone protection. We've had 4 years of watching Russia and Ukraine have a drone war and how you defend against the drone war. None of that was taken into account by our Pentagon with all this money. And therefore, the first troops killed, they had no drone protection. They had these big blast walls for, something on the ground, but nothing from the air. So again, no one is thinking. So guess what? It gets worse. The Gerald Ford aircraft carrier had to leave the scene because it's brand new technology that the Navy insisted on putting in doesn't work. The toilet system gets clogged up all the time, and it costs $400,000 to flush the thing out. Oh my God. And can you imagine 5,000 people with a non-working toilet system? How would that, a crappy situation to put it mildly, right? So that's got to go back in for repairs. The fancy catapult that they use doesn't work as well, and once one part's down, all of it's down. We have been investing in technology that's too complex, too easy to break, too hard to fix, and we can't even build ships in time. We might as well contract with the Chinese to build our ships faster and better than we are doing. Now that is sad, really. And then on top of that, on Palm Sunday, Israel banned the cat. Jerusalem is a holy city for three religions. Got that? Christianity, the Jewish faith, and Islam. They all have holy sites there. So on Palm Sunday, the Catholic cardinal wanted to go in and do mass in the Holy Sepulchre, where they think Jesus, was, raised from the dead and all that sort of thing. And guess what? Israel banned them from going in and doing their thing. Now Israel is determined to take over southern Lebanon, at least 20, 30 miles, something like that, just territorial land grab, right? It's kind of like Russia going into Ukraine. Hey, I want the Donbass, I want the rest of that. And then on top of that, the Israeli settlers are going into the West Bank now that the Gaza Strip is basically shambles, and illegally grabbing land from the Palestinians, their last little part of Israel on the West Bank. And the Israeli government's good with that. They kill in the Palestinians, and there is no no penalty for doing that. So the Israeli radical religious cabinet of Netanyahu got us into this war when our intelligence agency said they're not an imminent threat. And so now you're seeing the rise of religious extremism between Christian nationalism, Jewish nationalism, and God knows, we already know about the Islamic extremos. It's all the same party, guys. It's bad. Back off until they become more moderate. We need to cut them back. All these bombs dropping on, all these people doesn't solve anything. All right. Uh, so anyway, this hope that common sense finally prevails in the Trump administration, and they don't do a ground force, which will just unnecessarily kill a lot of American soldiers. It will not fix anything. You're going to go grab the uranium. Listen, the Iranians piled up tons of sand, etc., on top of the openings to get into those complexes. You're going to sit there with, a digger machine for months trying to dig it out while they're shooting missiles and artillery and They've got a 1 million man army. They can just, use rifles and assault weapons and just keep killing our guys. For what reason? Does that make any sense? Michael Fedlin, until next time, hold on your hat because the crap is going to get worse. We've got a leader that, I mean, my God, his head is all about the ballroom in the middle of a war while he's talking about invading Cuba next. Oh my God, it's just bizarre, crazy, people. The man is not well, physically and mentally. Michael Fedlin, until next time.